You want to open it up? Okay. Okay. Good evening. This is Ron. It is uh Monday, May the 12th, a little after 6 p.m. So we'll go ahead and get started and see if we have any questions. Anybody? Okay. There was something that I saw here that I'm still I'm in a good place, but I'm still finding my comfort, you know? And so I want to read something to you, some scripture that we all familiar with, and hopefully you understand what I'm saying, and we can talk about it in a minute. Look at John chapter 3. It's something we're very familiar with. Nicodemus. John chapter 3, and the verse that interests me is verse 8. But I want to I'll read the rest of it just to kind of tie it all together and in case there is someone on here that's not familiar with this or how we do things, because I could probably start at verse 8 and be okay, but it just sound better on the video, I guess. Now there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. This man came to Jesus by night and said to him, Rabbi, we know that you have come from God as a teacher, for no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him. Jesus answered and said to him, Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Nicodemus said to him, How can a man be born when he is old? He cannot enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born, can he? Jesus answered, Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Do not be amazed that I said to you, You must be born again. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but do not know where it comes from or where it is going. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. So that last verse is the one I wanted to concentrate on. Uh, and because I want to talk about the wind and kind of look at that because I see us as being the wind, but I want that to kind of make sense if to us at least to me anyway. Uh, you have your hand up, Audrey?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to ask a question before you go on to that.
Okay.
When it says, because when you read that, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. When you said a man must be born of the water and the spirit,
Mhm.
well, I don't think it's talking about baptism there.
No,
I think it's talking about natural birth.
that's the way I took it too. Yeah.
That's where I took it to
Yeah.
also.
But it's always interpreted as baptism in water and baptism by the Spirit. Anyway, that just struck me when you read that, and I was, whoa.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I agree with that.
But I never tried to see it that way. I always saw it as the embryonic fluid.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah,
I mean. The natural birth, the water of the natural birth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the journey of Nicodemus, and I'll just say this part of, because like I said, I want to kind of look at verse 8, but you guys, if you see something you want to tie in, please. But Nicodemus is similar to the journey of this energy that we call Abraham. Abraham is that part of you that has been in religion all of your life. You've seen Baptists here, or you've seen Christianity, and you the gods of your father, and you've been to these churches, and you've been on this choir, that choir, whatever, and you there's something tugging inside of you to that's saying that there's something more. Nicodemus is a bit different because Nicodemus is leadership. Nicodemus represents that teacher, that pastor, that someone who's been doing this for years, who suddenly hears, hmm, somebody say something.
That was me, Ron. I'm sorry.
Okay. Uh, but it's a similar journey. It's that troubling, or that stirring. I won't say troubling. That stirring inside of you that recognizes that there is a more, and you start to pursue it. So that is the Nicodemus. And we've talked about this in the past. The coming in the night just means he's in total darkness. This is a spiritual thing. He's in darkness, and he's trying to gain some understanding. But the one that reason why verse 8 has intrigued me, one, I've never fully understood it. And number two, uh, I feel comfortable where I am, but I can't describe to you where I am. If I had an image of Jesus, if I had an image of the church, if I had an image of all those symbols, I could tell you where I am, and I felt quite comfortable with that. This is a different type of comfort that I feel now, but there's nothing holding me up. The thing that's holding me up is me. And that it has a nakedness feel to it, but it also very comforting because I like where we are. And I know that doesn't probably make a lot of sense to you, but it's the newness of it, I guess. So as we enter into this age of upheaval in the world, and we see what's going on in Africa, we see what's going on with religion. Where do we stand with all this? This verse says the wind blows where it wishes, and you hear it, the sound of it, but you do not know where it comes from or where it is going. And it says, so is everyone who is born of the Spirit. And the question becomes, what makes the wind blow? Where does the wind come from? Or and I say, I feel like we are the wind. What makes us go where we go? What makes us what energizes us to action, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask. uh and I thought about the sand that came over from Africa, which does every year, which we've talked about, and we know ground and sand and dirt and all that means consciousness. So all of that to me ties into this. But anybody with any thought on this at all? So
Right.
yeah,
I want to, before you get to the wind,
okay.
when it talks about being born again, right?
Okay.
It also means to be regenerated.
Okay.
And the regeneration, if you have to be regenerated, it means that you were in a place or you were experiencing something at one time that you're not experiencing now. So, in order to be regenerated, you have to go back to beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, talk some more about the thing that you're not experiencing now. Say that again, please.
Um, the thing that we are not experiencing or have not been is the divinity that we are. So what we have seen or experienced prior to where we are now is a pseudo victory.
Okay.
Um, by the way, Nicodemus means victory. We have experienced a pseudo victory, and we thought that we were marching down the King's Highway on our way to heaven, etc. Right?
Yes.
And and what we found out is if we are going to be deliverers, it's more than that. It's more than that. That our religious victory that we thought we had. It is, and it's more than that because um, of what we realized when we began this journey of truth, searching for truth for the deliverance of humanity. We realized that we have not been in a position to deliver anyone. Therefore, we must return to beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let me continue. Well, continue for a second. Let me do this, okay?
Okay. Um, I guess one of the things that kind of ties into what we said yesterday. I'm listening to what Pastor said. I think it is impossible, or very difficult, even maybe, uh, to return to beginning without giving up free will. I think you have to give up self to even desire to go to beginning. Uh, so you may ponder that if you wish and say, uh, am I strong enough to give up my free will? That I don't think you can continue this journey without it. I think you have to be vulnerable in that regard that I am willing to uh, relinquish everything as far as what I thought was valuable when it comes to seeing the Creator, seeing who God is, or seeing who I am for that matter. So that part of it, I see, uh, and
Okay.
kind of ties into what I think anyway, kind of ties into what Pastor was saying, or at least
Um,
said yesterday. Yeah.
so what I was saying, thank you. So what I was saying is that we realize that if we are going to be true deliverers by traveling the journeys in search of truth, we realize that we have to be regenerated, meaning that we have to go back to our beginnings, and that is the space where we get regenerated. We have to understand, or at the very least, search for an understanding of what it was like in the beginning. And in the beginning, what it was like is all we were divine, and we knew that we were, and we embraced that. And what happened is this pseudo victory that we received and from religion took us to a place um, where we thought we were on the right road, where we thought that we had accomplished what was supposed to be accomplished in order for us to go to heaven. And then uh, when we travel the journey, we realize that heaven is here, enlightenment is here, and and those are disappointments that we deal with every day are only disappointing to us and carry us to a place of grief because we have not totally embraced who we are in terms of divinity. Does that make sense? Hello?
And that is a process. That is part of the journey, correct?
Yes, it is a process, and the process is when we begun to get comfortable with being Elohim. It is then that we were more comfortable embracing and believing that we are deliverers for humanity, delivering humanity from this bondage into a place of enlightenment, a place of balance and peace. Does that make sense? Are you muted?
I keep muting because sirens are going by.
Oh, okay. Don't worry about the siren. That's okay.
Oh, what did you use? You didn't say rejuvenated. You said
Regenerated.
regenerated. Oh, that's the part that I think that process is you don't come out the same. Like I'm saying, I'm used to uh seeing I'm growing used to seeing that Ron is the rock that he used to try to hold on to.
You're right. You don't come out the same way.
You don't come out the same way.
No, but you come out the way you're supposed to be.
And not only do you not come out the same way, you no longer belong to self.
Or
That's the win part of it. That's the freeing part of it, that you become more universal and self is diminished. And
it,
y'all help me with this.
it is impossible to come out selfish. Now, coming out is a process. And the process of coming out is when you begin to come face to face with those things that you need to deal with. One of them is selfishness. Another maybe um, ambitions that are that are adversarial to the journey itself.
Yeah.
So it is a process that we do go through, and and when we are going through that process, it is uncomfortable because we begin to see things that we thought were true that are no longer true. That's part of the discomfort in the in returning from beginning to what we call now. And the reason we go through this process is so that we can become deliverers as we were from the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So so what I'm saying in essence is that we are in that space now where we are able to to bring not only bring deliverance, but see the manifestations of it. And the manifestations of deliverance is not always pretty. The manifestations of deliverance um, is actually some of the things that's so distasteful. I went to see one of my mental health counselors the other day, and and talking to some of the ladies in the office who make the appointments, they were telling me that as of June 30th, they will not have a job. As a matter of fact, no one will in that clinic. And in the and one of the ladies, well, a couple of them were ready, they in a position to retire, but the white lady walked up to me and she wasn't. And she said, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And I ended up pretty much counseling her. But it broke my heart. I mean, it brought me to the brink of tears to hear her say that and to look at her countenance. So what I'm saying is that when we become when we realize that we are indeed divine, all the selfishness is gone,
Yeah.
and we begin to see people as opposed to seeing people as potential enemies. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And when we begin to see people as people, we become more cautious about how we express ourselves, and we see things differently than what we did when we were quote unquote Christians, because beginning shows us um, actually shows us who we have been before it shows us who we are. Does that make sense?
Say it one more time.
It shows us who we have been as
Oh,
opposed to who we are.
yes, yes, I agree with that.
And that's the struggle, facing who we have been
Yeah.
and, 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 um, and getting beyond all of these rituals that we have become so comfortable with. I remember when the first ritual that was discomforting to me was communion, and and I remember the struggle I had with that, and we got to the place where we just put that behind us, and then the next one was baptism, because seeing what Jesus what was said in the scriptures about baptism, that will come one who will baptize you in the Spirit, meaning that when you are delivered, you go through an immersion, a spiritual immersion. You go beyond this human material environment that you have been immersed in all your life. Now you are immersed in the spiritual essence of who you are. You're immersed in enlightenment. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes.
So when that happens, this does not this does not mean that we are a member of a church, because the word church in the Aramaic speaks to a party or a celebration. And so when we get to this place where we see who we are, then the celebration begins. So um, hold just a minute, please.
Here, is this making sense, y'all? Is it making sense?
Yes, yes, Ron. I can
Okay,
relate to what's being said.
Okay.
go
Okay.
ahead, George.
You
Yeah,
know,
no, I was just saying to Ron, I can relate, to what you're saying, because just some of the encounters that I'm having with people is not so much in terms of having the general conversation to talk or to listen, but really trying to appreciate the universe ministering to my spirit, and not speak or think in the natural way of just having that kind of a conversation, but letting the flow of the energy, letting the flow of the atmosphere create that sense of listening, that sense of giving, of what the spirit is offering. So, I mean, I can relate to what you're saying by the type of interactions that I'm having now. And so those are just my thoughts, but I can concur with what's being said. I mean, I'm relating to that. I'm done.
I
I'm
hear
done.
what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Um, so I guess what the bottom line to me is this: that if we are still selfish, if we are still seeking, trying to realize these ambitions that are going to propel us individually into a place where we want to be in this material world, then it's very difficult for us to be the spiritual beings that we were created to be. Why? Because um, seek you first the kingdom of Elohim, and everything else will be added. Seek you first the governance of Elohim, and when you're governed by Elohim, then everything that you need will be placed in front of you. You won't have to search for those things that your ambitions have led you to, brought you to a place where you're seeking them. You rest in who you are, and everything that's needed will be brought to you, because your desires are not to be above anyone in the earth, or to accumulate material things. Your desire is to bring peace to humanity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I want to piggyback off what you said though about the at the counseling center and offer a couple of suggestions because I think it's even more than that. If you said I think I end up counseling her, your breath was the wind. You follow me?
Yeah.
Your breath became the wind as far as reaching her and everybody else uh whether they were in that office or anybody seeking comfort uh that became so. The other example is what I said yesterday. Something hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me that I, in the past, in my experiences in life, I've never experienced anything personally positive about Catholicism. I've never known anybody who's done anything work, and that's probably an exaggeration. I'm sure they've done some very humane things for people of color, but when I heard this Pope, it wasn't a part of my celebration. It wasn't a part of but that is no different than me saying what I say about Republicans or about this or about that or about this religion or that religion. To do so is a part of the selfishness. Who cares how you used to feel about this? We have moved to a place, this journey has taken us to a place where we cannot afford to be that narrow minded or that selfish in our thinking, is what I'm saying. So part of the win is embracing all of that. Although some of it I don't quite see, what I do see is enlightenment that we have become. So the the wind going and coming, and I still want to kind of get into that a little bit more, but I think all of that is the energy that comes off and out of us.
Um,
And as I have said before, I think it is the energy of the African, whether we let fear overtake us or not, it is the energy of the African that keeps this whole thing going.
the, the African mindset is extremely powerful. There's no question about that. An example of being the wind, and then I'm going to address this thing about the Pope in a moment, but being the wind. You're in the grocery store and someone walks up to you and they start pouring out their heart to you, and you're counseling them or you're guiding them to a place of comfort, right? What did they feel? They felt the wind. Even though they don't realize it, they felt the wind, meaning that they felt your spiritual essence. They felt the spiritual being that you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That and so I see this as being the wind as well. Uh, when you when someone approaches you or and begin to pour out their heart and they don't even know who you are, they had to experience something. They just didn't do that. They walked past how many people before they got to you, and they only talked to you. It's something special about that, and I believe that's the win. That's the spirit. So, and about the, if I may, are there any questions about that before I address this thing about the Pope? Because I have a question that was sent to me about that. Anyway, that's in line with what you were talking about, Ron.
Okay.
Are there any questions about this first? The question was that when the Pope, um, um, when he became Pope, he said that um, he was Pope in the order of Peter, in the order of Peter. So the question becomes, what does that mean? If he's in the order of Peter, then you ask yourself, what was the order of Peter? Um, Peter is not a man. Peter was it is a representation of us, meaning that during that period of our weakness, and during that period where we are seeking truth, where we are making every effort to learn how to be deliverers. Um, we vacillate sometimes, and we deny who we are, not necessarily verbally, but by our actions. And then we finally get to a place where we become a stalwart. We become a mountain that cannot be moved. We become strong in what we have been shown and what we believe. So if it's in the order of Peter, then what I see about that is that the what he's saying without even knowing it is that he is going to be a stalwart. He's going to he's not going to be moved from the positions that he takes. And in saying that he was in the order of Peter, he also said that the reason he took the name Leo the 14th is because of the social justice of Leo the 13th pursued. So with those, when you couple those things, and then when we understand that in his family there are Africans, meaning that there are children of a Kabbalah in his family structure, which means that he has some melanin in him. So we have opportunity to guide that, to speak to that, as we have opportunity to speak to the mindsets of the African, but also the mindset of the European, if they seek to embrace the mindset of an African. So when I take all of that and couple it, what I see is the win for the spiritual essence that we desire for the Pope is to be a stalwart when it comes to social justice, but not in a political way, but in a spiritual way, meaning that he becomes a voice for righteousness, true righteousness, a voice for peace and harmony, a voice that does not play games with politicians, but a voice that will enhance the spiritual mobility of humanity. Does that make sense?
So,
Yes. Yes.
what were the ambitions then of Leo the 13th? What was he referring to? Does anybody know? Not
Social justice.
social. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, Pastor, you know, and Ron and everyone, you know, just something, you know, is just meant to my spirit about the stone that the builder rejected. You know, and again, for some reason, I think that has some relevance to what we're speaking about with regards to the Pope. But those are just my thoughts. What's your thoughts about that?
Okay, who you know was on it?
I didn't know if he was addressing your question or not, George. Please ask it again.
Yeah, I was just saying, as Pastor was speaking in terms of, you know, the Pope, you know, just, you know, having a consciousness in reference to the rock. You know, my thoughts were in terms of the scripture where it talks about the stone that the builder rejected. And I know we talked about that before, but is the Pope, you know, conscious about, you know, the beginning and the whole purpose of oneness with regards to the truth? If that makes any sense. I'm done.
It does. The stone that you're talking about that was rejected, truth is rejected in the material world of religion all the time. And when it talks about the stone that was rejected became the head, the cornerstone, it means that it became the cornerstone. What is the cornerstone? A cornerstone is the face of history, because behind the cornerstone are documents, and the documents speak to the growth of that particular building and how it came into existence, and who are the people who were involved in bringing it into existence. So this cornerstone speaks to the history of spirituality. It is cornerstone that was rejected because spirituality has been rejected and is being rejected, and it's up to us uh, to um, to bring righteousness into the earth to the extent that it is not so much palatable as it's unavoidable. And regardless of who you are, you're looking for something better. What you're going to hear, what you're going to find, what you're going to come in contact with is righteousness, is peace, is love and kindness. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Pastor,
Uh-huh.
could you, because you said it, but you said it quickly, and I'm still not clear on my question, which is why the order, he accepted the appointment in the order of Peter. And you said it, but I'm not clear on why Peter. So could you kind of say that again, slow it down and kind of break it down, because you were saying it, but I don't think I got it. So could you go over that one more time, please?
Yes. They're bringing Phoebe back in from a scan, so that's why I was on and off. What I was saying is that Peter Peter's not a man. Peter is an experience, and the experience that Peter is the experience of becoming a stone or a rock, meaning that in the beginning he was a pebble. He would go with the wind. He would go either way. He was swaying. He was not stable in his beliefs, and he was searching to understand understand deliverance. So when we are wavering, when we are making efforts to understand what deliverance is and who we are, we go through a struggle with the things that we have been taught all of our lives, and we have to get to a place where those things that we treated as truth, we get to a place where we recognize that they were not truth at all. They were mechanisms of manipulation and control. So when he says in the order of Peter, what I'm seeing in that is that the strength that Peter represented, the strength that a rock, that a mountain represents, that kind of strength, something that's immovable. So when I think of this idea, this concept of Petra, I think of the concept of being strong in what you believe and holding on to it regardless of what you have to give up. Because you get to a place where you are no longer wavering in what you believe. You're no longer questioning whether or not the journey of Christianity was right or wrong. You know what it was. And by knowing what it was, you know who you are. And as a result of that, you become a leader in terms of to those who are seeking the truth. You become one who they look to for understanding and guidance, because not only because of the journey you've taken, but because of the journey that you are continuing to take, and recognizing those who are imposters, and um, not being afraid to point that out. Does that make sense, Kat?
It does. It does also. How does Peter and this appointment tie into beginning? Does that question make any sense?
How does being
With the roots of a
wishy-washy
Camelon, with
being
the roots.
when in order for you to become a stalwart, in order for you to become that mountain, you're gonna have to go to
Mm-hmm.
beginning. You have to go to beginning. And when you go to beginning, as I said earlier, you see who you are before you see who you're supposed to you before you see who you were created to be. And who you are is a believer in religion, And when you see that, you struggle with that change. And when you get to a place where you are comfortable with knowing that you are divine, that you are Elohim, it is at that point that you are able to, to take off the robe of religion and walk in the freeness of the walk in the freeness of being Elohim. Does that make sense? And being Elohim brings stability to you. It makes you strong like the mountain that I was talking about earlier. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'm gonna read this again and make a statement, and you guys tell me what you think of this. Uh, the wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but do not know where it comes from or where it is going. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. Um, think about a mother.
Ron, before you do that, let me do this, please.
Okay.
Uh, in talking about Peter and the Pope, okay?
Okay.
I just want to finish it up.
Okay.
Peter was according to Catholicism, Peter was the first pope. Remember? So when he talks about in the order of Peter, he's going back to his beginning. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Does that make sense so far? Because there's more to that.
Yes.
Yeah, because that is the beginning uh, of being a pope. Now, when he goes back to that beginning of being a pope, we have influence, as I said, about the, because of the melanin, because of who we are. We have influence in what he sees and what he embraces when he gets to beginning. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everyone has to go back to their beginning in order to shed who they are so they can become who they're supposed to be. And he is no different. So when he talks about Peter, he's talking about a beginning. And this time, because of what we are putting in the macro, when he will see Peter in a different light. You won't see Peter as this man doing blah, 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 blah. This experience with, at just beginning will be more spiritual in that he will see the immutability of being strong in what you believe. So what I am saying in essence, and the reason I have need to finish this out is because whatever we put in the macro influences whatever we desire it to influence. And what we're talking about right now in relationship to beginning, I do believe that it is extremely important that we put in the macro the beginnings for the papacy or the pope. So and influence what it should be as opposed to what they think it is. Does that make sense? Hello?
It does. Yes.
And let me ask Kathy if that makes sense also, since she brought the question. Kathy, did you go? Did she leave?
I don't see her.
Okay. Okay. I'm done.
Sure.
Unless there are questions, of course.
Kathy, did you catch all of that?
I got cut off the line. I didn't hear the end, but I was hearing the beginning and that made sense. So yes, I didn't hear the last part of it though. I had to call back in, but thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Um, any questions about that, y'all? Before
And I apologize, Ron. I just wanted to complete that.
no problem. I think I saw something at least that made sense to me because the wind thing is fascinating to me, and I think I see in my own way what that means. Uh, suppose we're all becoming the cosmic mother. A mother is a person who you take with you everywhere you go. You take with you, whether you recognize it or not, her wisdom is in you. And some you in a situation, her words come back to you. Not only that, she sends her energy with you. Suppose we are becoming that energy
Huh?
for the entire earth, and you are in the that spiritual protection and enlightenment, uh, because we talk all the time about putting stuff out in the cosmos, in the macro, excuse me. And so when you talk about not knowing where it comes from or where it goes, it's no different than getting yourself into a situation where you're needing wisdom and something coming to you, or somebody coming to you with a difficult situation, and you see a solution in your head. Where does that come from? Isn't that the same thing? Is you can't explain where that came from. You can't explain uh that you walked in an office and somebody starts talking to you about something that they're hurt, and you have sympathy for them. So can it be looking at the wind, uh being energy, being wisdom, being enlightenment, that is what we are becoming, that you're losing self in the sense that Ron is being diminished, James is being diminished, Kathy is being diminished, so that you can become the mother, the protection of every form of life in the earth. Uh, I'll stop there. Does this make sense at all, or do you
I,
see it a way?
but Ron, I think that's what we meant and didn't know it when we was talking about when we are a receiver, we are feminine. And when we're a giver,
Yeah,
we're a seed. You know?
yeah, yeah. So it is impossible to return to beginning as self. It is impossible to not be vulnerable and have a desire to be filled with something else. Returning to beginning to me is being holy, because you're making room for answers. You're making room for to be replenished with something that you know is out there that you don't already have. So
Now, like Ron, not only you know it's out there, but you don't even know what you're looking for until you experience it, you know?
yeah. So to help with where we are now and how this we're right there because we be who we're supposed to be. All you as we said, this is no ego, this is not selfishness, this is not greed of any kind. That and that desire to be the more, that desire to be compassion, that desire to make a difference in the earth is what makes, the covering for Africa, the Kabbalah, excuse me, the covering for the people who are losing their jobs, the covering for the people who are making decisions to do all of this. So we become the covering for all of that, and our wisdom and desire in that area becomes the wind that they will be encountered with, although they don't know where it comes from. Okay.
It makes sense to me.
So anybody else? Question, comment? Okay.
I have a question. To me, I'm hearing like the more you get to the beginning, a lot of these things that you thought was worth something, mean something, that you want to hold on to, and all the tradition, it's gonna seem like nothing. It's gonna seem, and you like what I'm saying. The more you stay on the path of the beginning, you're not losing anything. You're taking away all this earthly stuff. And it's more onto it, but I can't see it right now, and I'm trying to talk it out. You taking away all this earthly stuff that it held you down and held you bound, and the more closer you get to beginning, you start seeing like it wasn't worth all the hell and all the trials and tribulations you went through, but that's what built you up to get there. So that's what we're looking at.
That's it in a nutshell, Charles. And remember, we talked about earth and ground in the journey. That's why we brought up Abraham. Consciousness is those things that you value. You're releasing all those things you value, and that's why you heard me talk about. You hear me constantly talking about religion because I value those things, and so as I become comfortable with where I am, uh, it gives me opportunity to see more and be more. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
So Ron, am I hearing you right? Because I'm thinking you're suggesting that wind is like a spiritual consciousness
Yes,
that goes wherever.
yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I like that. That's clarity. Anyone else? I guess as we study stuff 3 days a week, uh, we it's no coincidence. Even the questions that people come up with, we plug in and strengthen our not position, but strengthen our knowledge and our awareness of who we are based on the questions, and so we are right in the middle of this thing. It's not that we're waiting to get into this or waiting for some pastor to say, okay, this is going to happen. The Pope has done this or the president has done this. Now we can engage in. No, we're right in the middle of this. You have been the spoon that stirred the pot, and now you are in the middle of what this stew is going to become, and so I hope that we are in the midst of these discussions gaining awareness of who we are and an understanding and being comfortable with the position that you are and not saying anymore, why me, or I can't do this. Ain't no way I could do this. Yes, you can. You're doing it. We're all doing it. So
While keeping in mind that when we talk about doing, it's not physical. These are experiences, right?
correct. Any questions or comments, y'all? Thank you. I hope everybody got a thought. If not, write it down. And
I just had a quick comment.
yes, ma'am.
When you were talking about in the beginning about being in a place that you can't quite describe, but
Mhm,
it being like a new place,
mhm.
and that you're the one holding you up. I think for me, I I kind of understand what you mean by that, but I also think for me, in terms of learning learning and accepting that we are surrounded by our ancestors. I think for me, that gave me a grounding, because all before, when we thought about angels and blah 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 blah, they were kind of nebulous, you know.
Mhm.
You didn't know what they were really, or when they were, or whatever. When we think about ancestors, I mean, that's for me, it's people that you knew, that you can hold on to, that you can grasp. And when I think about them guiding me, um, that gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah.
So that kind of grounds me.
And Audra, I really appreciate that. But in all honesty, I'm not there yet in all instances. I'm not, and I'm not fighting it. I'll get there because I have a desire to.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm not totally there either, but it is a kind of a grounding place for me.
yeah. But I like that. I appreciate that too. Thank you. Anyone else? I hope this made sense. I really, my desire is for us to be comfortable with who we are. And I guess I gauge myself, or use myself as the gauge for that, which may not be true or fair, but uh,
Well, being comfortable with who you are does not necessarily mean that you can articulate who you are.
yeah,
It it, it it's more of an experience, and I do believe that the reason um, the Creator um, raised up teachers is because their leadership is in the receiving of the truth. Someone have to understand it enough to teach it, enough to spread that truth, right? However, those who are receiving from us don't necessarily have to understand it if it resonates with them, because there are a lot of things that we talk about that I don't fully understand, but it resonates. And to me, what resonates with me is stronger than my mentally or my understanding something with my mind. Does that make sense?
totally makes sense, and I agree with that.
So I, I just embrace all that's said, and I know that if there is ever a time that I have to explain something, the words will be given to me, or I will be guided to those words, or the scroll will be placed in front of me in an invisible way, but the scroll will be there. Why? Because everything we are, everything we were created to be, everything that is ever to be said or understood, created, or brought into existence is indelibly imprinted upon our soul. Is there. It's indelibly imprinted upon our spiritual essence. It cannot be removed. It cannot be erased. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It does. Thank you. Well,
Say that again, Pastor, because I got it, but it just went past me.
Everything we are, everything we say, everything we need, everything we ever going to be, everything that's going to be invented or brought into existence is already in us. It's imprinted in us. That is one of the reasons that we are able to create, to invent things, to bring things into existence. Does that make sense?
True. So that's why, um, Caucasian, I said it like that. I ain't saying brainwashers. They just twisted the truth real bad to where we don't think what you just said.
Well, yeah, and it was brainwashing as well, Charles. And the truth
Okay.
was twisted. And now what we are making every effort to do is make the crooked ways straight. Does that make sense?
Make a whole lot of sense.
That's what we're endeavoring to do now, to make the crooked ways straight. And and John Ron, when he said earlier about our influence on the cable line and how things are changing there on a daily basis. And I do believe that the bulk of our influence is there. And the more we continue to influence it, the stronger we will become and being uh, the God that we were created to be for the benefit of humanity. A cable line requires it,
Yeah.
and that's what we intend to fulfill. And I say, Ashe.
Okay.
And the other thing is that right now, what we are actually doing is not so much teaching and meeting as it is having experiences. Or when something resonates with you, that means that you are experiencing it. And I think we are having more experiences, but we're describing them as sessions of teaching, etc. But I do believe that there are more spiritual experiences than we realize. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Final question or comment? Thank you very much. Enjoyed your energy.
Thank you. And I appreciate everyone who's on tonight. And your energy, your presence is great. So we move from here to another space. The wall of Jericho is falling. It is more brittle than it appears to be. The strength and power of the governing body is not strength at all. The bark is bigger than the bite. What I'm saying in essence is don't listen at the words if those words make you tremble, because they're only words. They have the power to do absolutely nothing to damage humanity. We are here. We are here to stand in the gap for humanity and continue to move forward and continue to experience the walls of this governing body. We experience the crumbling of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I hope and trust you all have a great week. Look forward to meeting again. And
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone. Ciao.
Take
Bye.
care. Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
Bob.